So, what if I told you there's a sense, a sixth sense, that's operating inside you right now?
And that this sense is actually more fundamental to, your conscious experience than even the sound of my voice.
Exactly. It's a sense that doesn't look outward at the world. It looks inward at you.
It dictates whether you feel energized or exhausted, safe or panicked, even hungry or full. We're talking about interoception.
Interception. It's the nervous system's way of sensing and interpreting all the signals coming from within your body.
It's the ultimate internal monitoring system.
I always think of it like Spider-Man's Spidey sense, but instead of, detecting Doc Ock sneaking up on you.
It's detecting an internal threat.
Right, like a sudden drop in blood sugar or a racing heart. It's the signal that maintains homeostasis.
Which is really just a technical way of saying it keeps your internal environment stable.
Yeah.
And for survival, that balance is, well, it's everything.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're drawing on a huge, exhaustive literature survey that pulled together over 100 peer-reviewed sources from the last decade.
Our mission is to really pull out the crucial insights, the things you need to know about why this internal awareness is so central to mental health and maybe even consciousness itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. We all know the 5 classic senses, the exteroceptive ones that look outward.
Right. Sight, sound, touch.
So interoception is this deep, continuous monitoring system inside. But here's the thing the research makes clear right away. Most of it is on autopilot.
It has to be. The vast majority of this signaling is preconscious. Your nervous system is constantly making these tiny adjustments without ever bothering you.
So only a tiny fraction of that data actually becomes a feeling.
Exactly. It becomes conscious interoceptive perception. That's the subjective felt experience of your internal state. And that little sliver is what shapes your emotions.
So it's not one skill. The research shows it's measured across 3 primary dimensions,
And this is maybe the most important finding of recent research. They're often very weakly correlated.
meaning you can be good at one but not the others. Okay, so what's the first one?
First is interceptive accuracy, or IA. This is the objective measure. Can you, in a lab, actually detect and count your own heartbeats?
Okay. Your raw ability. What's number 2?
Number 2 is interoceptive awareness, or IAW. This is more metacognitive. It's your confidence in your own accuracy.
So how well you think you're doing.
Precisely. And the third is interoceptive sensibility, or IS. This is more of a personality trait.
Like how much you're inclined to even pay attention to those signals in the first place.
Exactly. It's your dispositional tendency, often measured with surveys like the MAIA-2 questionnaire.
And here's the paradox that really hits home. You could be objectively great at this. Your body is sending perfect signals, but you have low subjective awareness.
So you have high ability, but low confidence. You don't trust the data your own body is sending you.
And that gap seems like a huge psychological problem.
It creates a massive disconnection. Imagine feeling hungry but constantly doubting it, or feeling tired but not trusting that you actually need to rest.
It's like you're flying blind. And on the flip side, if your brain overinterprets every little signal.
That's a recipe for panic. You're flying straight into a storm.
So let's talk about the how, the neural superhighway. The body uses a couple of different pathways for this, right?
It does. There's the lamina I spinothalamic pathway, which uses these fast, lightly myelinated fibers.
So that's like the emergency fire alarm for the body.
Perfect analogy. It handles the urgent stuff, acute pain, things that need an immediate reaction. But the real star for that continuous background monitoring is the vagus nerve.
The vagal afferent system. I feel like we hear about it all the time now. But what makes it so different for interoception?
Well, the key is that 80% of its fibers are afferent,
Meaning they're sending signals up to the brain.
constantly sampling data from the heart, lungs, your GI tract. But here's the wild neuroanatomical fact that really changed the game.
Go on.
Unlike the brain's super-fast fiber optic style cables, these vagal afferents are mostly unmyelinated C fibers, and they're bundled together in what are called REMAC bundles,
REMAC bundles. Okay, that sounds technical. Why does that bundling matter?
because it completely changes the type of communication. It allows for something called volume transmission.
It's just good.
It's a slow chemical signaling that just kind of diffuses between the fibers. It creates a graded analog signal,
Okay, so think less like a digital on-off switch,
and more like a dimmer switch.
which is perfect for monitoring those slowly changing variables like stress levels or overall well-being.
Exactly. Not for a fast, urgent alert.
So if the vagus nerve is the slow, steady data stream, What's the processor? What turns all that data into the feeling of me?
That would be the insular cortex, or the insula. It's this deep fold in the cortex, and it's basically the convergence hub for all internal sensation.
And it has different jobs, right? A front and a back.
It operates hierarchically. The posterior insula is like the primary receiving area. It gets the raw data feed.
But the part that creates our conscious feeling of self.
That's the anterior insular cortex, or AIC. We call it the sentient hub.
Sentient hub. I
Nice.
like that.
This is where those raw signals get integrated with your emotions and your thoughts to generate what we call cognitive feelings.
So it's what turns my heart is beating fast into I feel afraid.
Or I feel excited. And we've actually known about this for a long time. The literature survey brings up Penfield's classical neurosurgical studies from the 1950s.
Right, when he was stimulating the brain directly in patients.
Absolutely. And when he stimulated the insula, they didn't see flashes of light. They reported these really distinct internal sensations, a feeling of an upset stomach or a sudden pang of fear in the chest.
Wow, direct confirmation.
It was the first real proof that the insula is the seat of the feeling mind.
So if the insula is the processor, it needs an operating system. And the survey points to this model called predictive coding.
Right. And to understand this, you have to stop thinking of your brain as just reacting to data.
And think of it as, what? A forecast engine.
A dynamic forecast engine, exactly. It's always running a model, always generating these top-down predictions about what your internal state should be.
Like, it's noon, I haven't eaten, so I should probably be getting hungry soon.
Precisely. Then it compares that prediction to the actual bottom-up sensory data coming in.
Yeah.
And when there's a mismatch,
A prediction error.
and that error is what drives everything: motivation, learning, conscious emotion. It's a signal to pay attention and do something.
So hunger isn't just your blood sugar crashing, it's your brain predicting a crash and sending an error signal to get you to eat before it becomes a crisis.
That anticipatory regulation is what we call allostasis, and it explains why our perception isn't always accurate. You don't feel the raw data, you feel your brain's best guess.
Which brings us to a huge problem in the field. How do you even measure this stuff? The old standard was the heartbeat counting task.
Right, it was. But the survey makes it really clear that this tool was, well, it's deeply flawed. It's vulnerable to what's called response bias.
Meaning people could just guess
Yes.
or use timing strategies.
Yeah, so their score wasn't reflecting actual awareness, it was reflecting guesswork. And that really inflated our understanding of how accurate people were.
So what's the new gold standard? And what did it reveal?
Researchers developed a much more rigorous cardiovascular single detection task, or CVSDT. And the results were, well, they were a bombshell.
Okay.
The survey highlights a key finding. Using this new, better task, only 12.3% of young adults actually met the criteria as heartbeat perceivers.
Wait, say that again? 12%.
12.3%.
That's a massive drop. The older, less reliable tasks were suggesting numbers like, what, 27, almost 30%?
You were. We thought maybe 1 in 4 people could do this. The better science now suggests it's closer to 1 in 8.
Wow. So objective interoceptive accuracy is way rarer than we thought.
It's forced a huge recalibration in the field.
Yeah.
And it shows just how careful we have to be with our measurement tools.
Okay. So this brings us to the individual differences, the interoceptive spectrum, because this is where it all becomes so critical for mental health.
When this system goes wrong, you tend to see two maladaptive extremes. On one end, you have low interoceptive awareness.
The alexic profile, which connects directly to alexithymia, right? The difficulty identifying emotions.
Exactly. If you can't read the internal signal, you can't name the emotion. These individuals often miss basic cues for hunger, for fatigue, for illness.
And we see this in depression and some presentations of autism spectrum disorder, or ASD.
Yes, but critically, recent research has clarified something. It seems that alexithymia itself is the primary driver of the impairment, not ASD.
So an individual with ASD who doesn't have alexithymia.
Their interoception is often intact, which is a huge deal for how we approach treatment.
Okay, so that's one side of the spectrum. What about the other end, the hyper-aware?
That's the high interoceptive awareness profile. These are people who hypermonitor their bodies and catastrophically misinterpret benign signals.
A racing heart after a run becomes, I'm having a heart attack.
It's the core mechanism of anxiety disorders, panic disorder, and health anxiety. They get trapped in this terrible positive feedback loop.
The anxiety makes the sensation worse, and the worse sensation confirms the anxiety.
And that's why we now see interoceptive dysfunction as a transdiagnostic feature. It's an underlying mechanism across so many different conditions.
Like eating disorders. Anorexia nervosa.
Absolutely. There are these profound disturbances in hunger and satiety cues, and that impaired ability to sense the body from the inside might even fuel body dysmorphia.
And what about something like PTSD?
PTSD is fascinating because you see this strange oscillation. Individuals can swing from a state of intense hyperarousal, where that anterior insula is on fire,
To a state of what? Numbness?
to a dissociative or numbing phase, where awareness is completely blunted. The window of tolerance for processing these signals becomes incredibly narrow.
So this system can be broken. But the good news here is that this sense is malleable. You can train it.
Thank goodness, yes. And one of the most effective ways is interoceptive exposure therapy, or IE. It's a core part of CBT for panic.
This is where you have someone safely experience the feared sensations, right? Like
Yeah.
spinning in a chair.
Exactly, to teach the brain, through experience, that a racing heart doesn't equal danger. You disconfirm the catastrophic belief.
And what about more high-tech solutions?
We're seeing exciting things with neuromodulation, specifically transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation, or TVNS.
So directly stimulating the vagus nerve from the outside.
And it reliably activates those deep interoceptive hubs, including the insula. Studies are showing it can improve cardiac accuracy, mood, even sleep.
And of course, there's always mindfulness, just the simple act of paying attention to your body without judgment.
A very powerful tool for strengthening that connection between the feeling brain and the thinking brain.
So to wrap up, we have to talk about the deepest implication from the survey. Does interoception form the basis of consciousness itself?
It's a huge question, moving from biology to philosophy. But the argument is pretty compelling.
Because exteroception, our external senses, they're all about the world.
Right, objects, events. But that continuous flowing stream of interoceptive signals provides the constant sense of me, the subject who is having the experience.
The feeling of being you might just be the processed data feed from your own body.
That's the idea. And that sentient hub, the anterior insula, it's active during all these different states of self-reference. It's a very powerful clue.
Wow. Okay, let's summarize the 3 essential takeaways. First, interoception is your sixth sense, but it is multidimensional.
Accuracy, awareness, and sensibility are different skills. Knowing your own personal profile is the first step.
Second, your brain uses predictive coding. You feel your brain's best guess of your internal state, not necessarily the raw data.
And understanding that prediction error is the key to understanding your own motivation and emotions.
And finally, dysfunction here is transdiagnostic. It links anxiety, depression, eating disorders. And training this sense is a powerful therapeutic tool.
Interoception is really the biological bridge between our physical body and our sense of self. It's going to transform personalized mental health.
Which leaves us with this final thought. If our sense of self is rooted in these continuous bodily signals, does that mean that to truly know yourself, you have to first learn the subtle analog language of your own heart?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the sense inside.
If you found these insights valuable, please subscribe and share this with someone else who's curious about how their own mind and body connect. Until next time.